Welcome to the Rotary Club of Flint. Thank you to our new Zoom host, Brian, for clicking the button there. And happy Earth Day. Today is April 22nd, 2022. The honorary bell ringer for April 22nd is someone who many of us have enjoyed his products. I think Nick in the back, definitely, I believe. Maybe you and I together have enjoyed some of this gentleman's products before, and Rob Bennett as well. Larry Bell. Larry Bell is the honorary bell ringer. He's, of course, the founder, brewer, and entrepreneur of Bell's Brewery. He just sold it a few months ago. So Larry is now enjoying his retirement, and I think it's a 2-9-digit type situation, I believe is what they call it. But he's actually a big environmentalist. You may recall the Kalamazoo River oil spill from Enbridge about maybe 10 years ago. Well, of course, as a brewer, water is very important. So he, I think, always cared about the environment, but it got real for him when it impacted his business. So he's become a very big environmentalist, a very big advocate for clean water all across Michigan. And just earlier this year, he was awarded the 2021 Environmentalist of the Year by the Michigan chapter of the Sierra Club. So Larry Bell is our honorary bell ringer for today, on Earth Day, of course. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
I'm just sitting up front, but Commissioner Clemens, you're pretty strong there on the pledge. I think you've done this before a couple times a week, maybe, right? Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And our inspirational message will come from Connie Peters. And I believe she is also bringing $1 with her based on the content of her inspirational message.
You folks better sit down. This is going to take a while. I have multiple things I want to share with you today besides the inspirational message, and I have $2 up here to cover my fines. Thank you. I love it when people relieve me of my money. You're very welcome. One of them is I'm on a committee called First Tee of East Michigan, and it is based out of IMA in Brookwood. I don't know if a lot of people know where it's at. It's on the corner of Davison and Belsey, and they do a phenomenal job with this program. It's geared to kids, and it introduces them to the game of golf and the values associated with the game so that young people in our community can learn business practices, self-improvement, and things like that. I feel very adamant about this group. I think they do great things. They're located right now. They're in Genesee, Lapeer, Tuscola, Saginaw Bay, and Midland counties. Last year, they reached over 10,000 kids with the game of golf. So there's gonna be some tough competition out there, folks. But we're trying to teach these kids, and many of them are at risk, the values of learning this game and the values of improving themselves personally. One of the things that our group has focused on is bringing golf to inner city kids. So we have two teams, a girls team and a boys team. They don't have the money for the nice outfits like some schools. They don't have the money for the clubs and the balls and things like that. If you have a set of clubs in your basement or attic or garage that's collecting dust and not getting used, would you please take it over to IMA and Brookwood and donate it for these kids? And if you can't get over there, bring them to me and I will take them over. Because I want to give these kids the opportunity to enjoy the game of golf just as much as I do, learn how to throw things like I do after. So, but it's a wonderful game. It teaches you patience, and it's a great experience, and what a great way to network with people. I've seen a lot of business transactions happen on a golf course. So let's give those kids that same opportunity. My second $1 is to toot the horn of the Food Bank of Eastern Michigan. We have a golf outing coming up. It's called Chip In for Hunger. It's going to be at Sugar Bush. It's going to be on Friday, June 17th. If you would like to enter a team or you would like to be a sponsor, please let me know. We have tons of opportunities. It's a fun day. Julianne's already got her team in, bless her heart. So if you can support us, that would be phenomenal, because every $1 we raise, it makes 6 meals for somebody that's food insecure. So we really appreciate you joining us. This is just fun. Now, on to the inspirational message. Aren't you glad I made you sit down? It's long. Look at this. You guys are going to be here a while. It's called The Mayonnaise Jar and 2 Cups of Coffee. And I'm sure some of you have heard renditions of this, but of course it's all tied to golf. I wanted to have a theme. A professor stood before his philosophy class and had some items in front of him. When the class began wordlessly, he picked up a very large and empty mayonnaise jar and proceeded to fill it with golf balls. He then asked the students, "Is the jar full?" Well, they all agreed that it was. The professor then picked up a box of pebbles, poured them into the jar, shook it a little bit. The pebbles rolled into the open areas between the golf balls. He then asked his students again, "Is the jar full?" They agreed again, it was full. The professor next picked up a box of sand, poured it into the jar. Of course, the sand filled up everything else. He asked once more if the jar was full. The students responded with unanimous yes. The professor then produced 2 cups of coffee from under the table, poured the entire contents into the jar, effectively filling the empty space between the sand. The students just laughed. "Now," said the professor as the laughter subsided, "I want you to recognize this jar represents your life. The golf balls are the important things. Your God, family, your children, your health, your friends, and your favorite passions. Things that if everything else was lost and only they remained, your life would still be full. The pebbles are the other things that matter, like your job, your house, and your car. The sand is everything else. It's the small stuff. If you put the sand in the jar first," he continued, "there's no room for the pebbles or golf balls. The same goes for life. If you spend all your time and energy on the small stuff, you'll never have room for the things that are important to you. Pay attention to things that are critical to your happiness. Play with your children, or grandchildren in my case. Take time to get medical checkups. Take your partner out to dinner, multiple times in my case. Play another 18. There will always be time to clean the house and fix the disposal. Take care of the golf balls first. The things that really matter, set your priorities. The rest is just sand." Well, one of the students looked a little puzzled and she raised her hand. She goes, "Well, what does the coffee represent?" The professor smiled. "I'm glad you asked. It just goes to show you that no matter how full your life may seem, there's always room for a couple cups of coffee with a friend."
Thank you, Connie, for that great message. I do have to find you an additional dollar though, Connie, because the golf outing is during Rotary. So that's another, and during my year. And it's in June, so if it was in July, I wouldn't care if Elizabeth was president then, but it's gonna be when I'm president, so I'm gonna find you another dollar for that. Rotarians on the Zoom, we're gonna go into a breakout session, and Brian, let me know, do you need a thumb to help with that, or do you want to do it? You're good? Okay. You'll have a breakout in the room, enjoy our lunch, and we'll come back together right around 12:30. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. Hope we had a great breakout on Zoom and good fellowship in the room. Under announcements, I want to, you'll hear more about this during the assembly, but just want to make sure that we thank everyone. And there's been a lot of communication about some changes to club governance. You'll hear more about this in a little bit. We just want to say at the top, thank you to everyone for your patience and understanding. And as we chart a new course, you'll hear more about it. I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about us aligning things correctly for our club. So thank you to all of you who have received phone calls this week and taken that information in with the grace that all Rotarians do. Under health and welfare, if you have not heard on Facebook or heard the news, unfortunately, I do want to share that John Daly had a heart attack this week. He is in the hospital. We believe he may be coming home as soon as today, potentially. Nick has an update. Okay, so Nick said that John said he's doing really well. Wants everyone to know that. That's great. Okay, back at work on Monday. That's the John Daly we know, right? Back at work But please do keep John, Wendy, keep John and Wendy and their entire family in your thoughts and prayers, and his medical team as well, for continuing to give him the good care that he needs. I don't see any guests on the Zoom to be welcome, other than I do want to acknowledge Area 7 Assistant Governor Al Tucker, who's joining us as well. I also want to thank the Rotarians who joined Al and myself, although I was a little tardy, and Rotarians from around Area 7 here in Jefferson County for Rotary Fellowship on Tuesday evening with District Governor Aaron. Because of the border challenges, getting back and forth, she's not doing the traditional district governor, visit every club kind of schedule. And it wouldn't be really fair to all concerned if she was able to visit those of us on the American side, but then not able to visit the clubs on the Canadian side. And so what we did is we had a Area 7 happy hour at Redwood, and got to hear updates from all the clubs. And thank you, President Elizabeth, for giving a great update from the club in true Rotary fashion. I guess I didn't realize we were sitting by club at tables. So there was an empty seat with the Grand Lake Rotary, and I'm friends with almost everyone in Grand Lake Rotary. And so that's where I sat at. And then I started getting strange looks as they're going around getting updates from each table in their club. So thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing our table. Yes.
You have one guest. He's been a member. He's been here so long.
Oh yeah, Dave. Well, in the room we do have a couple of guests. So Dave Perry, and I'm going to give the update from 360 Interactive, who is in the process and will hopefully before the end of this year will be introduced as a member. We think sometime next month. Once we get through one last committee and we get the schedule worked out. And then we have one other guest, Dominique Clemens, as with him, Ashley Crew, who was also a frequent guest, and I was told turned in her application today. So that's wonderful. And as my pastor says, if you get tired of being a visitor, we welcome you as family. So look forward to having you joining us. We have two more fun things. We have our April birthdays. And there's a birthday gentleman himself coming up. Today actually is Jerry Noodle's birthday. And it's also, Jerry told us, the beginning of your second retirement. He said he walked in, got some cake, and said, I'm done. So Jerry, the mic is yours if you want to do this. And if you could come up with your dollars, and if I could ask Past President Rob to be Sergeant at Arms to collect.
Thank you, President Kyle. There won't be much of a haul today. We're not certain we have all those birthday people present, but of course the online people can contribute also. Okay, starting with the list, Joy Peterman, her birthday was April 2nd. I don't believe Joy's here, but she's been a member of Rotary for 20 years. Christina Church is April 8th. Mark Enix is also April 8th, past president. He's been a member of our club for 27 years. April 11th is Don Rockwell, also a past president. And we've got Rob Jules here. Rob, come on up. Rob Jules' birthday is today, as well as mine, and also Andy Younger and Uncle Charlie, right. Rob's past president, been a member for 26 years. So we've got more here. Rob, you've got to help with our prompt. So we don't have enough hardly, but help us out. Also, Kristen Moore Burke's birthday is April 24th. Connie Peters, she'll help you out. Come on up, Connie. Yeah, Connie's got to give a little down. Yeah, you can help Rob. And Raphael Turner's birthday is April 27th. And Preston Means' birthday is April 29th. So we've got three of us standing in today. So join us in singing happy birthday to these fellow Rotarians.
1, 2, 3. Happy birthday. No. And if past President Rob could still stay standing up here as well. We have a lot of great traditions in our club. We talked about celebrating them, and some of those traditions really bring us that joy, right? It's great to see everyone every week, but there are those special times, special moments where we come together and we get to celebrate and we get to do great work in our community. And one of those times is during the CRIM. And as you know, we now have our CRIM Rotary Mile, where we're over in the Woodcroft neighborhood and we work with other clubs from around the area to support the CRIM. But for our club, a more longstanding tradition has been Champagne Corner, that Rob Jewell has been the erstwhile leader of and champion of. And so as a small token of appreciation and maybe to help kick off celebrating Champagne Corners of the future, or just Friday night champagne, we have a Rotary champagne flute. Yeah, not a flute that you would play with. Although if you stop up enough of the holes in the flute, you probably could drink out of it. But this will be easier for you to enjoy. So, thank you.
My apology. I didn't remember what technology. I know the underlying subtle approach for the rotary flute, because when people are doing the CRIM, they come by the Champagne Corner. And this is a promo advertising and marketing for the Rotary. So I say thank you ever so much. I'll probably have to wear both of my caps, the Rotary one and the Champagne Corner one. Thank you.
So today we have a special program. Thank you. Oh, that's right, 50-50. That's right. Thank you, Nick. All right, 50-50. That's right. So I'll pay $1, Nick, for getting. That's what happens when there's two presentations and I don't have my main one up. So if I could have Jerry Hill, please come up front for our 50-50, and then we will start with our club assembly. For third place, 82036. 82036, Ellen, all right. One one four. Second place, 114. Rob Jewell, all right. Rob, you can buy something to put in that champagne. First place, you can buy some Bell's Brewery. 050. Bobby, Dr. McCumber, all right.
It wasn't on this one.
So now this is funny. So we have elected official asking for a forensic audit at the front table. But we actually do have a minority report. There is a fourth prize. If we still have the tickets, where did the tickets come from? Jerry's got them. Nick said that he has DSO tickets. tickets for DSO for tomorrow night. So there's two ways we can do this. We can raffle it off, but I'm not sure if everyone would want to be able to go to the DSO. So how about this? We'll do a little bit of a Polio Plus auction. So we'll start the bidding at, let's make it easy, $20 for 2 tickets to the DSO. You can't beat that. It's music. A cello player in the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. $20 tomorrow night. Short notice. Who has a suit ready? George doesn't have a suit ready to go. He doesn't have a suit, right? Exactly. DSO is come as you are. Okay, even better. Do we have any takers? Anyone? Anyone who wants them for free, just to make Nick not feel bad at the wrong place? Okay. Right. There we go. Okay, we've got it. You make a deal. Okay. I think we have a winner. Okay, thank you. Thank you, President-elect Elizabeth. One of the boys are going to get some culture, or will it be the husband? We'll figure it out. Okay. Right. So our Rotary Club Assembly today will have a few things. I'll give a brief report. And then we'll have Becky, our treasurer, come up and talk about financial position. Mike Chafee, District Governor-elect, will talk about our endowment fund and RI giving. President-elect Elizabeth will talk about next Rotary year, which is around the corner. And then Vice President Anne Marie will talk about staying informed, and we'll have some Q&A as well. But I will move through this a little quickly so that we do have time for Q&A, or just to make sure that we do get through all the slides. So a few things that we've had to do during this ever-changing reality. We've maintained our membership numbers. We've been keeping our membership first with Zoom programs, and then we successfully transitioned in October to in-person hybrid meetings beginning in October. And I think even just this month, we continue to see our in-person attendance rise steadily. We've continued our service to our community and beyond. We'll talk a little bit about that, and then also adopted a new strategic plan for our club that the board adopted at the beginning of this year, and that has guided our board work throughout this year, and President-elect Elizabeth will talk about some of the fruits of that work during her presentation. So our board has been very busy. We meet over Zoom. We still have our committees assigned to directors, and our committees, their work is able to then feed up to the board. But we also recognize that our club's current structure do not fit our current size or need. A board member who may have been president of the club, I think my old boss, Dennis Karcher, maybe in 07 or 08, would recognize our board structure pretty easily today, even though our club size is probably less than half of what it was prior to the Great Recession. And so we recognize that we probably don't need dozens of committees when there's 100 of us, here, and we want to grow that number, but we still don't need dozens of committees. And also we have new technology tools that allow us to work differently than we did 15 or 20 years ago. And so we've also took leadership roles in testing and rolling out our hybrid meetings as well at the board level. So these are our current clusters. And I'm not going to dwell too much on our current board structure or current committee structure, because as we'll talk more about what's coming. So here are the board members who are assigned to each cluster. On projects, we're working, and I see Mark Schoninger here, planning the next phase of 80 well projects, scholarships awarding to area colleges and cultural center institutions that total almost $16,000 of philanthropic support. Continued our support of $1,000 to the Burton's Club's affordable buying list and shelter box, which supports international disaster relief. And we see today more than ever how important that is. We continue our support of the collaborative Area 7 Literacy Project and have grants available for over $25,000 for local projects. So as I add this up, it's over $40,000 of philanthropy from our club. I think it deserves a round of applause. We've added 2 Rotarians. With 2 proposals in process, this was made before Ashley turned her application in, so that's actually 3. Our People of Action Committee is working towards new opportunities for service. We weren't able to do our Earth Month one, but we still are putting plans in place for engagement and activity this summer and into next year as we and our partners we typically work with get more comfortable with in-person engagement. And of course, Rotary Crim Mile planned for this August as well. Special thanks to our new Rotarian sponsors, myself along with Mike, Connie, David, and I'll add, I believe Dominique, I'm assuming, since Ashley's been your frequent guest, you're a sponsor here, okay. So we'll add you to this list as well. Thank you to our sponsors. Sponsoring someone is more than inviting them to lunch. It's inviting them to be part of Rotary. It's recognizing in them that they're frankly already Rotarians. They just don't know it yet. They already embody the 4-way test. They already are people who are in their careers or their professions, leaders and people that others look up to for inspiration and for guidance. They just maybe haven't been to a Rotary meeting, or they haven't been to a Flint Rotary meeting, which of course is the best. So some things that we've done. We've had general overall satisfaction with our hybrid and Zoom in-person meetings. I want to give special thanks to our amazing speakers committee for a great range of speakers that we've had throughout this year, and a good mix of people who are speaking virtually or in person, really allowing us the flexibility, I think, to have the best of both worlds. And also understanding the importance of fellowship and the 4-way test. We were thinking about whether we should come back or not in person, how to do it. Dr. Bobby was a part of that work with us just as a thought partner. Really, the 4-way test was what guided us. Wasn't fair to all concerned. How to do that? How to make our health protocols fair to all concerned, but also make our Zoom capabilities available to those who, for whatever reason, whether it's time, health, or just travel, weren't able to be in person. Recognizing that being in person and being on Zooms together does build goodwill. So whether that's keeping the Zoom breakouts on Zoom, or making sure that we're having that time for the great banter and celebrating things like Champagne Corner, and recognizing those things, how important that is to the fellowship and the camaraderie of our club. So these mini committee chairs, I want to thank. Oh, okay, sorry. So I'll read them off then. John Daly, Bob Sobliski, Jerry Noodle, Sue Martinez, Bill Beck, Bob Sobliski again, Steve Jadwin, Jerry Noodle again, Connie Peters, Gene Dennis, David Smith, all of our past presidents, Jane Odell, Judge Beagle, Lynetta Coney, Dawn Hibbert, Joy, Elizabeth Cummins, Kathy Gonsner, Marissa Pierce, Jeremy Peters, Amy Krug, Mark Schillinger, Kimberly Roddy, Dawn Hibbert, Ellen Brothers. Let's give our committee chairs and co-chairs a round of applause. Another thing that we got started again that had been a tradition of our club going back a few years is recognizing that when you're president, you're really focused in the here and now. And so planning really is best done by the president-elect and the 2 vice presidents that are slated to follow them. And so what we restarted was a tradition of our club of the president-elect and the 2 vice presidents really thinking about the future together. Recognizing that with 1-year terms, it's hard to get things done. But if we think about things over a 2 or 3-year landscape, it's much easier to achieve some big things for our club. And so with my full support and the support of the entire board, President-elect Elizabeth convened our 2 vice presidents and also occasionally an additional director to chart out our future years. This task force identified the need and structure of reimagining our committee and our operations. And it's the intention of this year's board that this process continue into future years. It really does allow for the planning, people to start to think about 2 or 3 years down the road. And then when you're 1 or 2 years out, really putting plans into place and working with your successor to make sure that we have a smooth transition across years. You'll hear more about the fruits of this work as President-elect Elizabeth speaks later on. And so some challenges moving forward. We have to maintain interest and vitality of the club. We have to grow fellowship and engagement with one another. We have to find new ways to communicate. And we have to stay active and relevant in the community. And I want to note to you that unlike prior years club assembly and almost every Rotary presentation you'll ever read, the word membership is not on the screen. Membership is not a goal of ours. The goal is engagement, being relevant, being reflective of our community, being an active place that people want to be a part of. And if we do all those things, membership will happen. And so some thank yous. I want to thank our current board, President-elect Elizabeth, Becky, Anne Marie, Patrick, Ellen, Christina, Joe, Nick, Ray. Ray, thank you for joining us back in Genesee County. And also, of course, Amy Vanderput, our club administrator. Let's give our current board. And some other people I want to thank. Past President George Ananick, who has been my stand-in and has a couple of more stand-ins to go, I think maybe with Elizabeth's help. Mike Chafee, District Governor-elect, thank you for your support, leadership, and mentorship, I'll say frankly, as during my presidency. I want to thank all of our past presidents of our club. Some give a phone call or email every week or every other week. Some it's just a quick hello, a thumbs up, a text message. I really, really appreciate that. And others say, hey, here's some constructive criticism. I'm hearing something. Here's an idea, though, on how we can improve things. I appreciate that just as much. I want to thank all of you. Our wonderful speakers, we thank the committee, but also our speakers have been just phenomenal this year. I feel like I'm a better Rotarian and a better person and better at my work and better member of this community because of the things that I've heard from our speakers this year. I want to thank two former members of our board, former director Mia McNeil and former treasurer Stu Kelly. Stu helped to get our budget set up this year. And really, as you think about planning, we knew we were going to go hybrid. We didn't know when, how, and he got things in place. And so Becky, when she came in, there wasn't just this blank slate. There was something she could work with. And certainly Mia was great with us the first half of the year before she relocated down to Tennessee. I want to thank Rotarian Raphael Turner for letting me use his office because, as many of you know, his office, which used to be my office, is 5 minutes from here. And so when I have 1:30 calls like today, I'm able to shoot over to his office and be on Zoom versus being on a call in the car, or I can be on camera right up until 11:30 and shoot over from his office as well. I want to thank our area district assistant governor, Al Tucker, for his great support. I want to thank all of the other presence from Area 7. We have conference calls about once a month, once every other month to go over topics. And as we came back in person, it's really helpful to learn. We were one of the later clubs to come back in person, and it was helpful to learn from some of the smaller clubs how they were able to do it and how they made it work. I also want to thank the staff and leadership of the Food Bank of Eastern Michigan. I don't know if Ms. Cynthia can hear me, but certainly Connie, if you can pass along to her and to the entire staff here, we really appreciate their support and their understanding. And I already had Elizabeth learn today. Ms. Cynthia gives you the head nod. It's time to tell folks to start getting in line for lunch. And I also want to thank each and every one of you. I truly do appreciate this. This has been a great pleasure. No, I'm not quite done, but I did count. Jerry Noodle asked me. I have 5 meetings left to share. No one's counting? No, that's not counting here too. Yeah, there's 2. I have a golf event for work, and then a work trip to Mackinac Island coming up, and then a couple holiday and a 5th Friday, and yeah. So, and then the last thing is in the spirit of a great sitcom that I got to watch growing up. Get ready, Elizabeth. And I want to thank past President Rob Jewell for seeding that joke to me. He and I both had that same joke up, and Rob graciously allowed me to use that joke during the club assembly. And with that, this is the first time ever an esteemed accountant like Becky Millsap has had a segue from Fred Sanford to herself. Becky.
So I gave up this role. Thought I'd be gone more than 12 months, but it wasn't even 12 months. But I'm glad Stu stepped in when asked, and hopefully someone will step in. And I want to say my run was probably over 10 years, and then I took a break. So, but I'm happy to be back. So financial position, as I was looking back over probably the last 6 years, our financial position has really changed in the past 6 years. That total income number that you see up there, if you can't see it, it's $41,673. That is half of what it was 6 years ago. Granted, a lot of that is meals, so just keep that in mind. Our membership dues, just for frame of reference, were 33,000, and now we're at 28. So we had a lot more members. And the meals number is only 11,000. That number is typically around 30,000. So a big portion of that is meals that we receive in the money, and it goes right back out to the food bank and to raffles. So I don't want you to get scared that the number is so low. So that's a big portion of our change. Another thing I'll show you on the next slide, I know you can't see it back there, but the Rotary District gave us for district dues a 50% credit this year. So that really helped our bottom line. When Stu worked with the board to give a budget, it was at a deficit of $5,500 for this year that we're in. I am happy to say that Amy and I have worked out the numbers, and we think we're going to end up with a deficit of only about $1,600. So in a tough year, I would say that's great, but we can't plan for that next year. And I'm working with Elizabeth and Anne Marie and Amy, and we are working on the budget. We don't have that finalized for this next year yet, but I wanted to give you that news. Isn't as bad as it could have been, and a lot of it is partly due to the district giving us a 50% discount on our dues. That's about $2,500. So that's a big savings. I want to give you kind of a look at where we are. Total cash and savings as of March 31st in the bank is $57,480. We have had a very healthy club for a long time, and that has built up that savings over the years. So I wanted you to know that even though we're ending at a deficit this year, I'm not concerned because we've been able to maintain a pretty lean budget over the years. As I look back over the past 6 years, we ended up with a net income for all 6 years together of $1,700. So we've got a couple of years that have been tough, but overall, we've ended up with a profit in the past 6 years. So I'm not super concerned. We are going to be looking at our budget very closely and determining what areas we can cut. If we need to make raises and dues, we're going to be looking at that too. We haven't had a dues raise in 5 years. So for 5 years, we've maintained the same level of dues. So we'll be looking at those things. We don't have anything today in regards to that budget, but it's something we're working on. And I'll keep you posted. And like I said, right now, I'm not concerned because we have almost $58,000 in the bank. So we've done pretty well over the years. And with that, Past President Mike is going to give us an update on the foundation.
Thank you. Right or left? It's right. So, as Becky just gave us the rundown on the financials for the club, there's also 2 other legs of the stool. One is our charitable foundation, and that is the $190 that each of us is assessed each year. That's the member side, and then we also take the income stream from our endowment fund and put it together to fund our local projects and our $16,000 in scholarships and things like that. So here's what that looks like through March the 31st. Member contributions were $22,250. We've received $25,000 for the Haiti well project that's set in reserve. Other income was $335, and the endowment distribution, which should hit this month, is $14,021. So the total income was $61,606 to the foundation. I don't have actual, because we haven't spent all the money yet, but here's the percentages that we usually apply. 28%, or 28.5% goes to scholarships, 7.5% for international service, which go to the Haiti Water Project. 54% goes for community projects, 5% for others, like our shelter box contribution, avoidable blindness, some of those seminar for tomorrow's leaders is in that 5%. And then the board usually holds back 5% just in case of something comes up that wasn't planned, that they have funding to take care of. So that's the foundation. The endowment fund is managed by the Community Foundation of Greater Flint. That was established on March 15th, 1993. Last year, there were 45 gifts to the endowment fund, which was up 7% from the year before. Total gifts was about even with last year, $7,402. The year-end balance, the first time we've topped $500,000 in the endowment fund, $543,000, and that's probably adjusted a little bit because of the market. I haven't seen the first quarter statements yet, but I'm sure it's going to be down a little bit. The investment return was 13.86%, and the grants awarded last year were $13,991, which is down a little bit. 90 people in this club have been recognized with the Jack Hammond, worth at least $1,000 support. The all-time giving to the endowment fund is $330,192. Now, past President George and myself have been working on a campaign, because I think one of the things you're going to hear from President-elect Elizabeth is we've set a goal to raise another $500,000 in the endowment fund over the next 5 or 6 years. And that's going to come through some of us stepping up and either making cash gifts or making some type of arrangements in your estate plans, that type of thing. So some deferred giving. Okay, so that's the endowment fund. The Rotary International Foundation giving report. So the Rotary International Foundation was established in 1917, and this is as of April the 18th. 333 individuals have been recognized with the Paul Harris Fellow in this club. We have 108 people that have done multiple levels of the Paul Harris Fellow, so over $1,000. We have 3 Paul Harris Society members, and that's individuals that give $1,000 a year to the Rotary Foundation. We have 7 major donors, and a major donor is identified as someone who's given at least $10,000 to the foundation over a period of time. We have 10 benefactors. Benefactors are people that have given $1,000 to the endowment fund of Rotary International. We have no bequest society members, no Arts Plump Society members. We have 1 person giving Rotary Direct. Rotary Direct is where Rotary International automatically deducts that out of your checking account and charges your credit card each month. And our all-time giving, which really surprised me, is $827,000 has been given by Rotarians in this club to the Rotary International Foundation. And the only thing that I have going back to 1998, but we've received $246,000 of that back in grants. Most specifically, the most recent one has been the Haiti Water Project. So you can see our history, and I'm just going to point this out. So as your pledge cards come along, please consider a gift to the Rotary Foundation. We are the direct beneficiaries of that. So, and I think that's it. And I'll call President-elect Elizabeth up to continue.
Thank you, District Governor-elect Mike. So this is a preview of this next coming year, starting in July. We will have many of the same faces as you already saw on the previous slide in terms of the board. We'll have a couple of new faces as well. And this is going to be the team that has been working together to chart the course ahead, and we'll continue to work towards implementing that over the next year. And certainly we've got really strong representation from our Flint area In terms of the district level, we've got incoming District Governor Mike Chafee. We're 2 years in a row that we're going to have a Flint District Governor. That's pretty awesome. And glad to have Al Tucker here again today with us via Zoom, who is going to be our Assistant Governor for Area 7. And then the District Governor-elect will be Sonia Glass. I've had a chance to see her at least a little bit over Zoom through the President-elect training seminar, and I've enjoyed that experience. In terms of Rotary International, we are going to be having Jennifer E. Jones, who is the Rotary International President for next year, the first woman to hold that spot. And she's also virtually a neighbor because her home club is right there in Windsor, so a stone's throw away. And I had the chance to sit on some of the Zoom seminars that she offered over the past year. Certainly diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that she's very much interested in and has highlighted and has done a lot of effort at the Rotary International level to try to highlight. And so my hope and intention is that we will be able to also build on the learnings that they've been undertaking at the international level and apply them to our own club and how we move forward. So before I delve into kind of more of the nuts and bolts and the guts of the plan ahead, I want to just highlight a couple key events for your calendars. We will be having a district conference this year. It will be mostly virtual. There's some information available on the district website about that, but there will be a fellowship opportunity in person, and it's going to be in the Flint area because Erin Shanke is the current district governor, and she's from the Sunrise Club. So stay tuned for more information about that, but that's a great opportunity to get a chance to interact with some Rotarians, not just from our own area, but potentially from other areas of our district as well. There is the International Rotary Convention. Of course, anybody is welcome to sign up for that as well. And then we'll talk a little bit later on about some of the upcoming things regarding pledge forms and the payments and all that. Okay, this starts the part that I really want to focus in on. Kyle and Mike did an excellent job of really teeing up this conversation around how do we take this juncture that we're at as a club, as a community, in order to honor and celebrate everything that we have been up to this point, and also realize that there's some things in our world, in our community, in our club that have changed. And how do we set ourselves up to be successful, not just this year, but in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, so that we can continue to be a strong and vibrant club that lives up to our mission and serves our community. So one really important step with that was taken by the board this past September when they adopted a new strategic plan that will see us through the 23-24 Rotary year. So Kyle has done a lot of work this year, teeing things up, setting things in motion, getting us back to in-person and hybrid meetings was a big part of that, and then starting to plan for some things that will be implemented over the coming year. And so I'll walk through what a couple of those key things are that will be implemented over the coming year. The other big framing piece of how do we set our priorities, of course, has to do what Rotary International emphasizes. And so you can see there that there's those kind of, they use the terms members and engagement, Rotary Foundation giving, service, young leaders, and public image. And so it's really that confluence of how do we honor and uphold this international organization we're part of, but doing so in a way that meets our local community needs and the needs of our Rotarian members here at home. So actually, before I go on, I just want to highlight a couple other key things there. So the Venn diagram you see on the top right, these were the three concepts that anchored our strategic plan. First and foremost was diversity, equity, and inclusion. I already mentioned that that's an anchor point for Rotary International. For us, what does that really mean? It means, what do we need to be doing to be welcoming and accessible and inclusive to people of all backgrounds, so that anybody who's in our community who has that heart for service can see themselves in this club. And so that means being intentional about how are we welcoming people from all racial backgrounds? How are we welcoming women and people who are gender diverse? How do we welcome people who are of different ages? And how do we think about structuring opportunities in our club so that we can overcome any potential barriers to entry? Because when it comes down to it, we want to include everybody who has that heart for service. And so that's a lens that we apply to all the different aspects of the work going forward. It's not a standalone thing. There is no diversity committee, but it is part of how do we see our work moving forward. Similarly, service and stewardship, that cuts to the heart of who we are as Rotarians, service above self. And so you will see that we try to incorporate that so that we are supporting both opportunities for direct service in our own community, as well as trying to be stewards of resources to try to invest in local projects, in international projects, and support that kind of work that needs to be done as well. And then Rotary engagement, to echo Kyle's point earlier, we're not going to be focused on recruiting members. It's not just about that number. It's about how do we have engaged Rotarians, and through that engagement, that's going to attract other people to be engaged as well. Doesn't this look like fun? Who wouldn't want to be part of an experience like that? And so one of the things that we're going to have the opportunity to do now that things have shifted with COVID a little bit more, people are more comfortable being together, is let's look at opportunities to have fun. I would like us to have at least one social event per quarter, separate from these weekly meetings, which are still important. But I want to go to a soccer game, or I want to go to a Firebirds game, or go kayaking, or do something else. Something we can bring our families to, something that we'd be friends to. And that's a natural spot to recruit potential Rotarians. Because if they see a group of us out at the Flint Bucks game, or doing whatever, or inviting a friend to come along on a kayak trip, I mean, those are all opportunities to meet people, to have fun, to really have fellowship in different settings. And that's also public visibility for our club. Another aspect of engagement is really learning about Rotary. I think for the first several years I was part of the club, I thought Rotary was this. Like, I knew about the Friday meetings, I heard that there was some district stuff, and I got a magazine, which I sometimes read. And the more that I'm learning about it, the more I'm realizing that this Rotary is a big world. And there are opportunities to learn about what's going on at Rotary clubs around the world. Zoom has been a real gift with some of that. I've participated in some online trainings that had people from different parts of the country or different parts of the globe. And it's a whole different feeling. It's a much more expansive feeling of Rotary. Or learning about all the things beyond, the specific activities of our club, which are really important. But there's a lot that we're doing globally that we can learn more about. And there's also awesome things happening inside our club that I wasn't always aware was going on. So one of the things that I will honor Kyle for really helping to push, and something that I want to help continue, is that when we have cool things going on in our club, I want us to share that with each other and celebrate it. So that any scholarships that are awarded, any community projects that are funded, any service opportunities, let's celebrate that with each other, because that's what we're all about. And that kind of engagement is exciting. Quarterly service. So that's another great opportunity. We're all Rotarians because we have the heart to serve. So let's do it. Let's try to have at least once a quarter some sort of service activity that we can all try to participate in some way or fashion. So the Crim Rotary Mile is an example of that kind of signature event. It's becoming a bit of a tradition, but there could be also smaller events. So whether it's partnering with the folks doing the literacy work and see if we could have some guest readers sometime, or maybe we can ride on the coattails of something else. It doesn't always have to be us organizing it. Sometimes we can help by just getting our folks to show up and support something that's happening. So just as a quick example, somebody else has already gone to the trouble of organizing this cleanup in downtown Flint next month. They're just looking for people to register online and show up. That would be something that I would gladly do. And so sometimes we don't have to always pick the highest fruit on the tree. Sometimes it's a matter of just getting out there and doing it. And so I would love for us to be able to get involved in that kind of thing, because I think that's how we find our energy. So Mike touched on the philanthropy aspect of it again. And so I would encourage us to really think about our financial contributions as that philanthropy. So whether it is through Rotary International or focusing on Polio Plus, you know that they're on the verge of having a new polio vaccine? Like that could be a game changer as we try to eliminate polio, and we're this close. Thinking about the Rotary Foundation or a local grant making. Mike had mentioned that we have already crossed one threshold in terms of building our local endowment. As we think about the future of our club, where we've been and where we're going, the more we can do to build that endowment now, the better off we were going to be in perpetuity, because that endowment is there to stay. Our club right now has about 150 fewer members than it did when Becky joined. And I know for people of my generation, like my employer doesn't pay for my dues. And as I try to think about what would it take to involve my counterparts, folks I work with, people in my sector, there's a lot of people who want to serve, but they don't always have the deepest pockets. So as we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's also, how do we try to orient ourselves that we can be more accessible to folks that want to serve but may not always have the checkbook? We have traditionally been a check writing club. Our community is not necessarily made of as many potential check writing members. And so if we know that that's on the horizon as a pivot point, the more we can do now to try to build that endowment, the more we can be sure that we can continue our club's legacy of being able to make those scholarship checks, of being able to make those local grants to see community projects like the Flint Public Library come to fruition. That is a lasting gift that we can be prepared to make for our community. So if you have the ability, I will ask that, yes, let's donate. If you have the ability to serve, I will ask that we serve. If you can do both, even better. All right. So another aspect is communication. So we're doing all this awesome stuff. We've got ourselves out in the community. We're at different social events. We've got service projects. We're doing scholarships and grants. We're already doing a great job with our weekly newsletter, and we're doing our Facebook. I would love to be able to see us get at least 2 media mentions, 2 media stories through some media outlet about the awesome work we're doing. We are doing great things, and we can tell our story more about that. So communications is one area where I think with a little bit of work and focus, we can really shine. Okay. I'm not going to go through all that. That is our current org chart. It has 32 committees. It has 32 committees. We have 102 members. And not everybody's on a committee. We have committees that don't have chair people and haven't had chair people for years. And so we've had some challenges around that. We had a committee structure that was very well suited to a group of 255 people. But we're not at that point now. And so we can reorganize a bit and also deliberately work on some areas that have been challenges with committees. So things are like, does everybody know what their committee is supposed to do? Does everybody have the resources they need on that? So we're going to be restructuring these committees, and I'm not going to do everything in detail here, but if you'd like access to the full presentation, you are welcome to it. We're going to go down to 6 committees. And we are going to take those different functions that used to be on little islands of committees by themselves, and we are going to group them in terms of areas of responsibility that make sense. So it's not going to be one person that's responsible for carrying out the work of the whole committee. We're going to have a chair and co-chair. Co-chair will be a board member. The chairperson is going to be able to act like a manager for that committee. And then the team members on that committee are going to work together to plan it and to execute the work for that year. I won't read through everything here, but again, just highlighting that we'll have a dual committee chair and co-chair role. In terms of committee member duties, the key things are to learn about the role of the committee, to participate actively in helping to plan, carry out, and share about the committee's work, and really communicating. So we want to hear from committees at least once a year, hopefully more often, about the great work that you're doing, as well as any needs that you might have. So the next steps with the committees, this is a lofty goal, but by July 1st, I would like each of the newly constituted committees to have an action plan for the year that sketches out the major pieces they're going to do. That means that in order to have that ready by July, that there's going to be a process of identifying chairs that is starting right now. The board is working very hard on that. Once we get the chairs in place, then we'll be trying to orient them and recruit to fill out the committees. If you've been involved in committees, there is still work for you to do. We want you, we need you. We're just kind of rejiggering how that gets done. Okay. Again, we're going to be looking at ways to look at both membership and philanthropy, and so the board will be looking at maybe some changes to your pledge form, but that is to be determined. And to give us a final word here, we're just going to shift it to Kyle.
No, Elizabeth, you did a great job. And so in the interest of time, on May 7th, is that our next meeting? May 6th, which is our next in-person hybrid regular meeting. We'll finish this, and Anne-Marie will talk more about how we'll stay informed. We don't want to overload you with information. You've gotten a lot today. So take a pause, and then we'll come back and pick this up before we have our speaker in our next meeting. I want to thank Connie Peters for a great inspirational message, Christina Church for bulletin notes, Jerry Newell for setup takedown, and I thought it was Jane, but I'm wrong. It was Brian Sanderson, who was our Zoom host. Thank you, Brian. And we will not have a meeting here next Friday because it's a Fifth Friday. We will have a lunch at the White Horse at noon. I would ask that you please email me or text me if you think you're going to attend, or if you're going to bring a guest. We'll put it in the weekly message as well as a reminder to do that. And we look forward to seeing you all on next Friday for lunch, but don't come here. Connie will put you to work if you come here. So please remember, as you go out about your day, to serve and change lives. And we are adjourned.